Let's see if I got this right. They're going to take away your freedom of speech because of massive censorship and the changes coming to the internet. They'll take away your freedom of movement because of the climate. They'll take away your ability to own your own car, your own house, because most people will not be able to afford it. And we're still supposed to call this a free society? Hi there and welcome to my local woods. I'm just out for a morning hike. Also I sat down to have a cup of coffee. I brought my coffee here, my coffee cup. I was up in that area, but I had to move because there are some people there now. If you have been following this channel for a while, you know that I care deeply about nature, the forests, and the wildlife, and I get provoked because I see that especially politicians and the usual suspects, they use the word climate a lot, and I'll try my best not to get into a rant here in this video, but I don't know. We will see how it goes. First of all, skål, cheers. I have some notes, and I'm going to get into some details here, but I'm not going to delve too deeply into the whole matter, because this information is still out there on the internet, and you can find this very easily. If we look at the Western world, Europe, the USA, Canada, and so on, we are seeing some trends, some changes. We are moving towards less freedom. And I would say that if we should summarize what's happening now in one sentence, that would be it. We are moving towards less freedom. And I think that right now, if you look to the UK, we can pretty much see where this is going. Because the UK is fast becoming a surveillance state. In the UK, they are quite busy dividing the cities up into 15-minute cities and 20-minute neighborhoods. What that means is, well, you can look it up yourself, but basically there will be laws and restrictions put in place so that it will be difficult for you to leave your area. Now, this is of course being done because of the climate, as they say, and to make sure that the citizens are kept obedient. They put up cameras to check if people are leaving leaving the area with their cars and so on. And the whole thing is quite disturbing. Lots of people in the UK are speaking out about this. They are worried because I think at this point we could actually say that Britain is starting to look a lot like a prison island. Now, I've been to the UK many times, and I will say that to me as a Norwegian, the biggest difference I would say is that in the UK they have a lot more rules and restrictions, and I would say that we have a lot more freedom here in Norway. We have the right to roam law and things like that. And it's very difficult for me actually to be in, well, especially England, because of all these laws and restrictions limiting my freedom there. And now it's becoming worse. Now, this whole thing with 15-minute cities and 20-minute neighborhoods and that whole joke there, well, it would be funny if it wasn't true, but it is coming to the rest of Europe and the USA and Canada as well. Our fine politicians have committed to this, and again, it's all because of the climate. Now, recently, an energy bill was passed through Parliament in the UK, and I think we should take a look at this because it's almost like looking into the future for people living outside of the UK. And I want to thank the kind subscriber who sent me links to this and informed me about this.
Darker filter.
And I'll have to look at the notes because I want to get the details right. Now, this energy bill covers energy production regulations, CO2 transport, carbon capture, heat networks, energy performance of premises, offshore energy production, and the civil nuclear sector. Now, it allows authorities to use quote-unquote reasonable force to enter people's homes. And it can fine people 15,000 British pounds for failing to meet energy performance levels. Most people, they don't have that amount of money, you know, and I think that what we're looking at here is that very soon people will be forced to sell their homes because they can't afford to upgrade to certain, you know, standards, climate standards and so on. This energy bill says that there should be a smart meter, there must be a smart meter in every home. It says that it's an appliance which is capable of adjusting the immediate or future flow of electricity into or out of itself or another appliance in response to a load control signal, and includes any software or other systems which enable or facilitate the adjustment to be made in response to the signal. What does it say there? What does that mean? Well, actually, it means that the conspiracy theorists were right? Because it means that external people from outside, like the government, outside of your house can shut the power off. They can control how you use that power. So what this means is that we're looking at the transfer of wealth. People will be forced to sell their homes, or they will never be able to enter the property market. And big corporations will be renting flats and apartments and so on to them. This is coming maybe to the UK first. I don't know. Maybe it's just as bad in other countries already. But I think that we need to be aware of this. We need to call this out for what it is and call it for what it is. It's not about the environment. If it was, these fine politicians, they would put into place laws that actually would help the environment and so on. This is not going to change anything when it comes to the environment. It's just going to imprison people. I'm calling this feudalism 2.0 because it looks a lot like feudalism. Now, it's not the same as during medieval times, but there are elements here that are very similar. That should worry everyone. So what can we do about this? I wish I had an easy answer. I wish it was easy to fight this, but it's not. But we still have to do it. And people will be writing in the comments, you know, what, there is nothing we can do. Well, I think there is. Refuse to comply. And yes, there will be a price to pay. It will be difficult. but we're looking at the implementation of a system where there will be no freedom.
Mm-hmm.
No freedom of speech, no freedom of movement, no no property rights for you, for me. So use your voice and don't vote for these politicians who are who are helping this happen. Don't give them your vote. I know you won't, but I'm just saying it anyway. Because sometimes people, especially in the UK, where they have this two-party system, as far as I know, then they will vote for the other one, the other party, and I don't think it will matter much. And also consider getting off the grid. What do I mean by that? Well, you have the energy grid, right? You can actually have a very comfortable life outside of that. But you will have to move out of the city. You will have to get a house or a property, a cabin, something in an area that is maybe a little bit remote. But it's not difficult to be self-sustained with the energy that you need. People have been living off the grid for most of human history, It's just now recently that we have become dependent on everything being channeled into our houses. We must do everything we can to become independent so that we don't have to rely on the system. And I find this extremely important. If you can, make it difficult for these people to go on with their surveillance. For me, I think that was the main reason why I threw away my smartphone 3 years ago. We need to make it difficult for these people. And we need to let them know that we value our freedom. And they're not getting their way without us fighting back. We are going to fight this, and we are going to win. Are we moving into a new dark age? I'm beginning to think that we are. Instead of logic, sense and reason, now we have ideological dogma. Instead of a true connection with nature, now we have the thing where everything should be green, which often means cutting down the entire forest. It's all upside down now, and you're not supposed to question it. But we're going to do that in this video. But first, let's make a campfire and have some coffee. The Age of Enlightenment was a movement in Europe in the 17th and 18th centuries, and it was about liberty, progress, natural law, the separation of church and state, and it was in opposition to religious dogma and an absolute monarchy. Before that, centuries before that, and for a long, long time, we have what is often called the Dark Ages. And the Dark Ages was not about progress, quite the opposite. often referred to as the Middle Ages or the early Middle Ages. It was a time of cultural decline, it was a time of economic decline and lack of progress. It was a time of migrations, unrest, and if you had ideas that went against the people in power, you would be in trouble. Now, I will say that the term is a little bit incorrect, and it was not all bad. For instance, the great Norse culture was not dark, it was not backwards at all, but nevertheless, it is important for us to understand what went on in Europe during those centuries. People were dumbed down and kept down under the heel of people in power. You should not question the official narrative. And I'm asking you, is this beginning to sound familiar? It was a time of ignorance and mock science, pseudoscience. It was a time where people who had new ideas were burnt at the stake. And again, I'm asking you, well, we're not burning people, but still, does it sound familiar? I think it should sound familiar. Because we're not moving in the right direction. People are dumbed down. They're kept fat, dumb and lazy, as they say. You're not supposed to question the narrative. And you're being called bad names and cancelled if you disagree with the official narrative. I'm just a guy sitting out here by the campfire. What do I know? But I know this, that I know that my YouTube channel is being massively shadow banned and often demonetized. Videos like these are often demonetized. And I think there's a reason for that. We are being discouraged from asking these questions. And the powers that be, they don't want us to be free thinkers, do they? What can I say? Skål. Of course, you can help this channel by subscribing. It absolutely helps. And more importantly, subscribe to my website. You can there are links everywhere to my website. I think we all, if we stop a little bit, if we stop and think, if we stop and observe, many of us, we can see where we are heading. And me, I don't want to be part of that. No. I don't want to be part of that. And I think neither do you. You know, my message is quite simple. It really is. Try your best to live a good life. Spend time out in nature. Seek knowledge. Be curious. And do question those people who seem to have a little bit too much power.
I've always gotten the shoulder on this one. Eye, nose, mouth, hair coming all the way around here, long hair, male face, human, male face. That one, not this one, but this one, with the long hair. Once you get over to this one, then it's another face. So, I'll crop them with the cropper. And give them a couple different ways. Alright. Eye, hairdo, nose, big fucking schnoz, mustache, mouth open, goatee, right? you get that one. But I'm trying to work out a way to do my angles so I can be more exact on my angles. I've gotten into it once before, but anyways, what I was going to show you is that right here, because I just changed my angle quite a bit, using that same area, changing the face a little bit, but this ends up being a shoulder. His neck and his shoulders coming down this way, and then you got chest, so I can get him like all the way up to here. But it was over here. So now it's got to be, there we go. This is the angle. So I'm doing 360s on my telescope with my cell phone for these moon videos. So as it comes around and I get the perfect angle and distance of perspective, until then, this one's the one I've been, lots of them that I'm going in on, but this one right here is the one I'm going to make the biggest impact with. Eye, nose, mouth. And I'm going to show you different angles and distance of perspective. He has a bald area here at one perspective, so that he'll look bald. Okay, and then there's several of them where this all works into being a afro, and the face will get darker, the nose will get wider, and you have a lot of evidence of all the races in the True Creator's work. And that's one of the things I want to try to impress on someone. I'm still trying to decide who I'm going to call out next. But anyways, once we want them to start going from lighter colored races, I'm down here. But once I want them to go black, then I come way up here, and I can get him to go black. His nose widens up, and I can come over this way. And actually, I'm getting a larger one now, so I got to be careful. I'm going past my spot. There we go. Yeah. Millions upon zillions of images that make up the moon. All obviously the True Creator's work, because the imagery is the same as it is down here. Feline, canine, rodent, ape, human, and beast. The moon is not what we were told it is. Even nice guys like this guy here that I just found his channel, he doesn't get it either. He's not going to get it. He's in love with the trees and everything like that. The trees are not our friends. We were lied to about everything. The trees are not our friends. The trees are stealing our energy. And the energy's bad enough anyways, because humans have taken over the skies, and they dump the mineral streets all over the fucking skies every day, and nobody even notices it. This guy's out there walking in the woods. He can look up and see him too. I haven't heard him talk about him yet. We'll see what happens. But there's a lot of ways that they're stealing the human energy and using it for other species. Feline, canine, rodent, ape, human, and beast. You know, that's the True Creator's imagery, and the false creator/creator stole the work and divided. And that's why the biospecies was feline, canine, rodent, ape, human, and beast. Anything after that was derived by humans. I know it's hard to believe, but it's the truth.
You seem to be a little bit too greedy, if you know what I mean. Because that kind of people, we have always had that kind of people. There is nothing new about what's happening now. What's going on now has been going on since the dawn of mankind.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing new under the sun.
That's because humans at some point in our history stole the false creator/creator's work and have had it ever since. I don't know how many thousands of years. My best guess is around 10,000 years or so. That's what's happened.
But anyway, thanks for watching. And if you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing. It helps a lot if you do that. And I think things being as they are, especially with YouTube, I need all the help I can get. But okay, thank you for your time. Hopefully I will see you in the next video. Okay, as always, I am sorry to say this, but I think Europe is dying. It's gone too far. Mass immigration, low birth rates, and this constant self-hatred that we have been seeing for decades now. And what we're going to see now, what's coming now, will be horrible, and it will be something that we haven't seen in a very, very long time. And I'm going to say something now that is still controversial to say, and I will be called a racist for saying this. You know, I don't care anymore, because I'm sick and tired of this. We need to call this out, and we need to call it for what it is. When you allow young fighting age males, thousands upon thousands upon thousands, into your country, eventually that country is going to change. Now, let me make one thing very clear. I am not talking about decent people trying to get out of a war zone. It's our duty to help, especially women and children, but I think we all understand that that is not what we're talking about here. Now, there are people who would tell me that I should not talk about this because it's so controversial. And again, I don't care anymore. This is important. Now, I'm a father, and you know what? I could turn my back at society, and that would be okay. You know, I don't need modern society. But as a father, I want my children to live in a good, decent society. The kind of society that I grew up in. But now, I am worried. I am worried about the lack of safety. I'm sure you've heard that in Sweden, now I'm Norwegian by the way, but in Sweden, you know, it's not so safe anymore. And they call Stockholm, the capital of Sweden, the rape capital of Europe. Now, I don't know if it's statistically true, but there's a reason why it has gotten that nickname. And now we have a new situation. We have the war between Israel and Hamas. Now, there's a lot that could be said about that. I will just say that I support the civilians on both sides. I support decent people. And I believe that most people on both sides of the border are decent people. I want to believe that. I really want to believe that. But because of what's happening there, and especially because of the brute force that Israel is now using, we are going to see civil unrest. We're going to see terror attacks. We are going to see people being killed, innocent people being killed by terrorists. And those terrorists are already here. They live among us. The enemy is within the gates, and they have been for a long time. I suggest staying away, and I would not say this. I would not say this if I didn't really mean it. I suggest staying away from crowded areas. I know it might be difficult if you live in a city, but you know what? I suggest getting out of the...
Can't do that. Can't be fought that way. It can't be fought that way. To keep ignoring it, you can't. What is everyone going to go into hiding? You know, that's the whole that's their whole plan.
The cities as well. This whole situation, it's going to.
The better way would be for the zombie slaves to wake the fuck up. Everybody would be carrying, and then therefore nobody would get out of hand, because you know if you got out of hand there'd be 20, 30 people to turn around and take you out. And then those things wouldn't happen anymore. And those are only the ones, because there's only, you got to remember, half of those things are hoaxes. Half of them are hoaxes. And they're just set up to divide us. Because it's 7.8 billion zombie slaves. It's not 490, million or whatever you guys got over there where you are. It's 7.8 billion. It's the whole earth over. And you probably think you're on a spinning whip air hockey ball too. So, I don't know. I'm going to listen to a couple more videos.
It's going to blow up very soon. The governments in the European countries, the police force, and so on, they're not going to be able to contain the situation. We're going to see aggression that we have.
That's funny that he's saying that too, because they've been telling us that for a long time. I'm surprised this guy don't know that, but that was the whole point of opening up the borders in every country, so that they could come in. Now, if you notice, defund the police are going to go away. The auditors are going to help the police go away. And then who do you think is going to be taking over those task forces of running us, of controlling the streets? Instead of it being asshole cops of all races, it'll only be 3 or 4 races, right? If we're going to bring race into it. So, so how do you think this is going to... And they've told us this. It's all in Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. It's in all the United Nations agendas. We're going to be living under Chinese rule. China's going to be the number one leading world power. We've known this for 40, 50 years. To pretend that it hasn't happened, I mean, we're out... It's like slow motion as far as I'm concerned. Because we find out about things many years before they even happen, and as they slowly grind through them all, everyone will continue to tell you, no, it's never going to happen, but when they tell you that, it's already happening. And then they still deny it, and you can show them, no, it's happening now. Oh, okay. And they fucking just ignore it.
Not seen before. Well, we have seen a lot of aggression from people motivated by a certain religion of peace, of course. We have seen a lot of aggression in all European countries from those people, but it's going to get much worse now. They will be motivated by their religion. And yes, I have looked into that in detail over the course of many years.
Nah, this guy's wrong, man. It's all happening from within. Every country, it's happening from within. You know, they started all this in our country back on September something or other, back in 2001. They got us started, and they started up the Patriot Act. They started coming down on any air travel, automobiles. When Obama came in, he was doing the buy back the cars. He wanted all the old cars to crush them so they could get the new computer chip updates and all the new vehicles and all that shit, which they have now. So they've been tracking the vehicles already for many years. They just pretend that they don't have the power to do that, but they do. They track everyone's vehicles. They got the plate readers, and they also have GPS on everyone's vehicles and phones. They just give them the VIN number, and they can cross it, and they could have your data. It's the way it works. So I'm surprised this guy's saying any of this.
They will be motivated by their charismatic leaders. And they will be motivated by the use of force against innocent civilians in now Gaza, and if it spreads in other areas as well. And there are people who will be writing in the comments that this is all happening because you don't have guns in Europe. Yeah, well, that's not true.
It is true.
And, you know, what I will say is that, well, if you didn't know, in some European countries,
It is true, because then you have no way to fight them off. You have no way to fight the bad guys. It's not just a matter of figuring out that the bad guys are the good guys and the good guys are the bad guys and they're all mixed up. It's not even good enough. That's why I'm trying to show it all to everyone. I hope you guys come to these videos, somebody, and starts looking. It's getting crazier and crazier every day.
There are lots of guns. Gun ownership is the norm, I would say. Like in Norway, there are lots and lots of guns, and lots of illegal guns as well. Now there will be people who are shocked that this is happening to Europe now. And to those people I will say, where have you been for the last decades? This has been going on for a long time, and it's been getting worse and worse and worse. Now Norway never had the same amount of immigration as like Sweden, for instance, but still, I can remember when I was a teenager how I grew up in a nice area. It was nice, but then these gangs of teenage kids with a Muslim background established there, and all of a sudden violence was part of all of a sudden it got violent. I mean, that's a long time ago, and I moved out of that area because of that. So what I've said up until now is, I guess, quite obvious. It's common sense. But as we know, common sense is not that common, is it? Or is it just that people have become so cowardly that even though they know what is common sense, they don't dare say it? Maybe it's both. But I want to share with you some thoughts and ideas on what we can do, because we can't give up. And I said that Europe is dying, but maybe Europe can be saved, at least parts of Europe. So here's what I think. Here's what I think we should do. Here's what I think we must do. First of all, don't be afraid. Speak your mind. Be civilized. Don't use a kind of language that just puts people off. Don't use racist slurs. Be intelligent about this. And please remember that nobody hates the Islamists more than decent people who have a life in our countries. We don't want any association with any Muslim groups or anything like that. You need to adopt situational awareness. And
I don't think you're going to feel that way if you ever come to my videos. When you realize that everyone has been lying to you, and you've been lying to yourself all your lives, grandparents, parents, all the shit that you got for memory from history that you were lied to about, well, you're going to be pissed. And you're not going to feel that way anymore, because you're going to know that you've been lied to just as much as the Muslim cultures have. We all have. It's all of us. All divided purposely.
For those who haven't really practiced that, you can't practice it, okay? Try to be more observant about what's going on around you. As always, have enough food and supplies if your area becomes an area of massive civil unrest and violence. Maybe you need to just stay in your house, in your apartment.
No.
So have what you need for days and weeks. And
that sounds like a very European thing. That sounds very European. I think I'm all done with that, dude. Let's see what else I can find.
There's no cause for alarm, but as you can see, a lot of people alarmed by this, and it seems to be spreading. And like they said, how could this be spreading? Well, it looks like it is, and you know, people not trusting the word of China, or those that are saying that there's no need for alarm. Members of Congress saying stop travel immediately. We believe there is no new novel pathogens. She said, this coming from the Center for Disease Control Director Mandy Cohen. She said these are related to existing pathogens, the last pandemic, the flu, and RSV. Let's see here. Maria van Kerhove, acting director of the WHO Department of Epidemic and Pandemic Preparedness and Prevention, recently noted in an interview with the stat that
now. Is car ownership going to be a thing of the past? This MSN.com article seems to think so. As the dream of home ownership becomes further out of reach for many young Britons and Generation Rent is facing an entirely new challenge, young professionals living in cities such as London, the economics of owning a car no longer make sense. There's plenty to say about even those first two paragraphs, but let's carry on. Andrew Smith, who is managing director of 6T, the vehicle rental company, says it's getting harder and harder to own a car, and it's becoming harder and harder to run. Well, it's not if you rein in your aspirations. If you want to buy a £30,000 car, then yes. But if you're happy to drive around in a banger, no, you can still do it. I think there's something to be said about ego and image, and the fact that young people these days are no longer happy to be seen driving a £300 banger. They'd much rather drive a fairly new Audi. But that's a conversation for another day. Driving is on a path to becoming fundamentally different, says Andrew Smith. Soon, instead of owning cars, people will share them, he adds. I very much see that as being the future. I'm almost expecting to see Klaus Schwab, actually, just popping his head round the window to say you'll own nothing and be happy. Because he's here between the lines. Nearly a third of motorists are driving less often in a bid to curb spending since the cost of living crisis began, according to a survey by 6T. More than half consider owning a car to be a financial burden. I don't think that's true at all. So let me reread that based on what it should actually say. In a survey that we did, where we deliberately did a survey to find the information that we wanted to prove that people are getting put off cars because we are an anti-motoring think tank, nearly a third of motorists are driving less often in a bid to curb spending since the deliberately manipulated cost of living crisis, which is also a corporate profit boom, began, according to the survey done by 6T. That's better, that's correct. Drivers are currently under the cosh from record high motoring costs, says another of our friendly faces here, Edmund King, president of the AA. What has Edmund King ever done for us? Not wishing to go a little bit Monty Python here, because genuinely, Edmund King, president of the AA, has never done anything for motorists. He pops up in articles like this, which are all kind of between the lines anti-motoring. How can Edmund King, president of the AA, be so useless? I don't get it. I am a voice For the motorist, I believe in motorists, I believe in owning a car. Edmund King doesn't. Otherwise, he'd be on our side. He'd be useful. He'd be doing stuff. He'd be like standing up and using his organisation to stand up against government legislation and the rising creep of the anti-car movement. But Edmund King, president of the AA, does nothing. Car insurance premiums have surged by 29% in the last 12 months and hit an all-time high of £561 as materials and labour shortages drive up the cost of works, according to the Association of British Insurers. I know there's an insurance video coming soon. The upfront costs of purchasing a car have also climbed. Yeah, we know this. The cost of cars have gone through the roof. The cost of a basic car like a Ford Fiesta is now ridiculously expensive, notwithstanding the fact that they've now canned the Ford Fiesta. So cheap motoring from the showroom, from a dealer, is getting more and more difficult. You can still buy second-hand cars though, and I do. I keep buying them. They just work. Just rein in your aspirations and drive an older car. Since August 2021, data from AA Cars shows the price of a second-hand Toyota Aygo has jumped 16%. Aygo, sorry. With a Vauxhall Corsa up by 12% and a Polo up 8%. Normally, only classic or collectible cars increase in value, says the ever-helpful Edmund King. In London, drivers have also been hit by the ultra-low emission zone, which we know, because my channel has done so much on it, is a total scam, and many motorists have already sold their car as a result. Many haven't, and many are fighting back, and long may that continue. We see customers now who come to us every Friday and rent a car just for the weekend to get out to the country, maybe to visit a second home or catch up